All right. Welcome to Healing by Design. I don't know what class we're on. We're on bone health. Talking about bones and bone health. And next week, just so you know, we're going to do arthritis, which is the one I missed a few weeks ago. And next week will be the last one until probably February is when we're going to restart. Because I'm taking a hiatus and leaving for a while. I won't tell you where, so you don't all go, But I'm going to Hawaii, so that's where my wife's from. I have to go, okay? So we're going to talk about bone health, and important subject. You know, this is another topic where there's a lot of men and women both who have osteoporosis, osteopenia. They've been given this kind of diagnosis, so we want to discuss, you know, why this is happening and what we can do about it. But let me pray to start, as with every class. Oh, Father, we just exalt you. We thank you for creation. We thank you for creating us. We thank you that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Help us to understand more of you and the human body that you designed, and help us to align with you so that we would be well, that we would be able to turn from this culture of sickness and disease that we've created, Lord. So just give us more insight. We humble ourselves before you, and we say we don't have all the answers, but you do. And so continue to give us your wisdom, that we would seek you for the answers and not man, that only our Creator can help us and heal us. So we pray in Jesus' name, amen. So bones. So let's just talk about structure of the human body and what bones are all about. You know, we know that it's what we're made of. There's how many bones? 206. Is that how many bones are in the human body? I thought that was like common knowledge or something. Isn't it 206? Okay. Well, anyway, I think there's 206 bones in the human body. It's pretty fascinating how we're born, and it's like cartilage, and it's kind of mushy, and then it hardens into bone and this structure that composes who we are. So it's kind of shocking to think, again, I always think about God and how He designed us and how amazing He designed us. How could our bones get weak? How could our bones become fragile? How could we get these types of diseases where we have weak bones? One thing to understand about bones that I think it's important to understand is that bones are living tissue. They're living tissue. They're cells. We're made of cells. We're made of trillions of cells. I think sometimes we think bone is just this hard rock, but it's not. It's living tissue that's made of cells. And anything that's living is continuing to grow new cells, to repair damaged cells, to slough off, you know, old, dead, or diseased, or dying cells, and this continuous process of regrowth. So an easy way to think about it is when we go do something and we have an accident and we break a bone, does it heal? Yes. How does it heal? Well, it can only heal if it was a living organism, right? It's living tissue that's repairing and joining that bone back together the way it was supposed to be originally. So this is a constant, continuous process that needs to happen within the bones. And so just like any cell of the human body, it's going to need nourishment. So to have healthy bones, we're going to have to nourish our bodies, nourish our cells, therefore nourish our bones. And if we don't, we're going to have problems. I'm going to go through this 10 steps actually with you. It's kind of a good guideline. This is something I actually just revised a little bit, but this is something I've been giving to people for years actually. And it kind of fits what I've been doing with the other classes, giving like 10 steps. And this is one I already had done. I just had to revise it a little bit. But I think it'll give us a nice outline on what we need to do to have strong, healthy bones. So let's just go through it. I think that'll be the easiest. So step number 1, it might be a shocker to a lot of people, but it's avoiding dairy products. So let me preface and explain this because there's a lot of controversy over dairy. And I'm going to I will just give you the logical argument on both sides, and I'll let you make the decision that you think is best for you and your family. The problem with Well, let me talk more generally first, then I'll get into more specifics. The main reason we have problems with our bones, let's just start there, is because of acidity. And it's the acidosis of the human body that causes the degeneration of cells and tissues and organs and glands and therefore bones. But what's happening with osteoporosis, osteopenia, weak bones, brittle bones, it's a little bit different in that the constant acidity of the body is forcing the body to pull calcium from the bones to offset the acidity in the body and in the bloodstream. Does that make sense? Okay, so the body has a pH balance of around 7.35, 7.4, somewhere in there. And if your blood is acidic, or your body's acidic because of diet, because of stress, because of different emotions, that can cause an acidic environment in the body, in the blood. And the body will actually, it's the old saying, rob Peter to pay Paul. It'll pull calcium, which is a very alkalizing substance, to offset the acidic nature of the body. So if we want to know why people are being diagnosed with osteoporosis, osteopenia, etc., it is because of acidity in the human body. Now, really important for, I think women especially, seems to be the women mostly are the ones diagnosed with these types of issues. You hear it in men, but not as often. It's most often in women. A lot of times we'll just blame it on like hormones and hormone issues. And yeah, the hormones play a role in bone health, like estrogen, progesterone, metabolism, and balance. That plays a role, but nothing is more crucial in understanding bone health than this acidity issue. Okay, so just to reiterate that, if you have stressful lifestyle, toxic emotions, those create an acid environment in the body. If you eat acidic foods, meat, grain, dairy, which we'll talk about more specifically, that creates an acidic condition in the body. And God's job in designing you is to keep you alive. He created this body as a self-healing mechanism. Everything it does is designed to heal itself. And so you can have horrible thoughts, horrible emotions, eat a horrible diet, yet people still live for years and years and years in that type of environment. Even though they're doing the wrong things for their body, they'll continue to live. Why? We have a good designer. God's a really good designer. And so, but what's happening is He's pulling calcium and potentially other minerals out of our bones because there's huge deposits of calcium. 98% of all calcium is in our bones and our teeth. There's a couple percent that's in our blood as an electrolyte mineral to serve various functions, but it's mostly in our bones and teeth. So there's a large supply of calcium, obviously, in our bones. And if we continue to live that way with poor diet, poor lifestyle, again, wrong thought process, negative emotions, the body will continuously pull calcium from the bones to offset that situation. So don't just wake up one day and get osteoporosis. It happens cumulatively over time. It's an effect of basically having things in our lifestyle that lead to that. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so number one, avoiding dairy. So the reason dairy is an issue is because a lot of things, in my opinion. And I'm just going to give you my opinion, again, from a logical standpoint and also from a healthcare practitioner standpoint and having worked with hundreds and hundreds of people with various issues. Dairy does not work for the vast majority of people in our culture today. I'm just going to say it that way. I'm not going to say it wasn't originally intended to be a food. You can look in the Bible and you can talk about a land flowing with milk and honey, even though I don't believe that's specifically milk and honey. I believe that's just a term for abundance. You know, it wasn't like they went into these valleys and all they had was milk and honey. It was an abundant land. It was full of lots of abundance of food. However, you know, goat's milk is specifically in the Bible as a food to feed the maidservants in like Psalms or Proverbs or somewhere. So there's definitely biblical references to people drinking milk. And I do believe that milk could be a food for human beings. And I know it has been throughout human history. Who could deny that? We know cultures throughout history have had milk. Even when America was founded, people had farms and dairy farmers, and they relied on milk oftentimes as a food source. However, today we live in a different world. One issue is obviously the processing of the milk. The cows are extremely sick and unhealthy. They're in feedlots. Dairy cows are treated horribly. They live 3 to 4 years when they're supposed to live 20. It's just tragic the way we treat animals. They're sick. They're shooting them up with antibiotics. They're giving them hormones so that they produce milk faster, which creates a very dirty, unhealthy milk. And so to get around dirty, unhealthy milk, they pasteurize it, homogenize it, sell it to you, and pretend like it's okay. So anytime you buy dairy in a grocery store or you get dairy out at a restaurant, even cheese, anything like that, most of the time it's pasteurized, it's homogenized, the animals are very unhealthy, and it's very acidic to the human body, which is going to lead to this issue of acidification of the body. So the other reason I don't recommend dairy today is because the majority of people I see that I'm working with have health issues. Most people don't come see me unless they have a health issue. So if you have a digestive issue, if you have a congestion issue, any history of lung issues or asthma, any history of liver, gallbladder issues, which gallbladder surgery is the #1 surgery in America. If you've got a congested lymphatic system, women or men, but women with any history of cysts, uterine fibroids, breast cysts, lumps in their breast, anything like that. These are all congestion issues. Dairy is not going to work for you. It's not going to work for the vast majority of people living in our culture today. I just have to make that clear because I want to see people get healthy and I want to see people get well. And you can't say, well, I know dairy's bad, so I'm going to do the raw milk and I'm going to go to the farm and drink the raw milk. It doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have any health issue whatsoever. That's my opinion. Now, if you still live on a farm and you're working 8 hours a day and you're sweating, and you're in the sun and you're in pretty darn good health because you eat a clean diet and you're working really hard, you don't have any known health issues, could you drink milk as a food? Sure. But I don't believe the majority of people today are going to do well with dairy of any sort, and that includes raw. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I have people that'll fight me tooth and nail for that because they love their raw milk, and that's fine. But I see people who need to get well, and putting them on raw milk isn't going to help them get well. So, why? If raw milk is clean, pure, raw, has all the enzymes in it, I can go through the whole argument of why raw milk's good for us. The logical argument would say this, so don't shoot me for saying this, but to me it's just logic. Don't shoot the messenger, as they say. Who did God design cow's milk for? Cows. Who did God design goat's milk for? Goats. Who did God design dog milk for? Right? I mean, we don't drink dog milk and, all kinds of other animals' milk. We drink cow's milk and goat's milk. And again, I'm not saying that's a horribly wrong thing to do. But a 100-pound cow turns into a 1,000-pound animal in 1 year. Why? Because cow's milk is very strong, very heavy, high in protein, high in fat. It's a heavy, heavy food. So you're not going to do great on that, again, if you have any health issue whatsoever. Children being born today, being put on cow's milk, big, big problem. Our children today are born weak. They're born with health issues. They're born with congestion issues. So we really, really need to be cautious on what we're giving our children because we have this mindset, and that's why one of the things I talk about dairy is we have this mindset that you have to consume dairy to be healthy, or to have strong bones, or for children. Hey, Mike, can you maybe tone it down a little? Thanks. So we have this mindset because of really more than anything, the American Dairy Association has fed us this belief over advertising for 50, 60, I don't know how many years, that milk, it does a body good. Used famous people with the milk mustache and all this propaganda to help us believe, to make us believe that we have to have milk to be healthy. We have to have milk to have strong bones. And it's just not true. It's just not true. They're trying to sell a product just like the Beef Council and pork, the other white meat. I mean, I don't believe pork's healthy for us, but pork's the other white meat. They got their advertising campaign. They're going to do everything they can to make you think that you have to have their product. And it's still happening today. I mean, schools all across America still believe you got to have dairy. Children have to have dairy. They promote milk products. And again, it's designed for the animal that it comes from. Look at it this way. Again, if you just want to use a logical argument. What creature that God created continues to consume milk after being weaned? None. All animals, they drink milk for the first year of their life. And then they're weaned. And then they eat grass and plants and whatever that animal eats. Human beings, we're designed the same way. We're designed to drink human milk because it's best for us. But then after we're weaned, we're not to switch to cow's milk or goat's milk. We're to switch to food. We're supposed to eat food. So those are just some of my beliefs. The problems with pasteurized dairy is the lack of enzymes. It's pasteurized. It's homogenized. There's a quote here. There's all kinds of evidence out there that shows that people with the highest rates of osteoporosis consume the most dairy products. I'm not going to say this is 100% fact, but I did read this one time. It's that the highest rates of osteoporosis I had read one time was in Wisconsin, which is where the most milk and dairy is produced. I don't know if there's a perfect correlation. And I'm not going to blame it on dairy products, certainly. It's the standard American diet. It's the soda pop. It's all the horrible things we put in our bodies causing this issue and this condition. But dairy is not our solution. Let's think of another quick logical argument. If dairy gave us strong, healthy bones, and pretty much everybody in America, at least in their childhood, I did, grew up drinking milk and eating milk products, and today people love their, even if they don't drink milk, people love their cheese and yogurt and their other dairy products. If this really worked, why do we have an epidemic of people with bone problems and osteoporosis and osteopenia? Because it's not true. And there's a lot of other factors as well. So let's go on to number 2. The worst of the worst thing that you can put in your body is soda pop. And it is a big problem. My joke is that God didn't create rivers flowing with Coca-Cola and soda pop. He gave us water. Same thing. We would learn so much if we just looked to nature, if we just looked to how God took care of the animals. Because the animals, this might sound funny, but in some levels of physical health, they're at an advantage over us because they do things by instinct the way God designed them. They don't think to make soda pop and drink it, right? Human beings do that. Like, we're the craziest creatures. But God didn't design it that way. He gave us water. And if you put acid straight into the bloodstream, how do we expect the body to survive? And again, it's going to pull calcium from the bones. It's going to rob Peter to pay Paul to keep your body alive. You don't just show up one day with a bone problem. It's from acidity over time, from dairy, from soda, from grains, from all these foods that we're eating constantly, meat as well. So soda, it's horrible for the immune system. It's the worst thing Americans consume. That's my opinion. As what we call a food. It contains phosphoric acid. So it's right on the label. It has acid in it. And you've all seen the YouTube videos, or you've heard the stuff about how the 10 uses for Coca-Cola, like you can clean a blood stain up, and you can clean your car battery, and you can clean your toilet, and because the stuff is so corrosive, it's funny. But it's just bad news. And then diet soda is actually worse. Because of the aspartame, because it's poisonous. It's illegal in Europe and Australia and other parts of the world, but we allow it here in America because money usually trumps health, and so we allow it here, and it's horribly toxic to the human body. So if we want to go back to the goal here, the goal here is bone health. So one of the first things you want to understand about bone health is don't put the things in the body that's going to force your body to pull calcium from your bones to keep you alive. That's the main message. And this is why health is so challenging for so many people, is we do all these things that are wrong. We did it for years and years not knowing, and then when we learn, it's still hard to turn away from the things that we like. And because we're still alive and we're still functioning, we don't think anything's wrong. Yet there's this internal struggle and battle going on inside our bodies to keep us healthy and to keep us well, in spite of all the things we're throwing at it. So let's just reverse that. Let's just cooperate with the way God designed us to function. And we don't have to worry about these issues. We don't have to fear these issues. You know, enough women get osteoporosis, then all of a sudden in your head, you're getting towards 50 years old, you got that thought in your head that you're going to get osteoporosis. You know, and that's exactly what the medical system wants, is they want you in fear. They want you believing you're going to get a sickness or disease so that they can sell you a drug, right? And we haven't gotten to that yet, but step 3 is alkalize the body. So the acidic foods are meat, dairy, especially processed dairy, because if you look at acid-alkaline food charts, you'll see dairy is kind of right on the border of acid-alkaline. But once you process it, it becomes very acidic. Grains, that's all grains. Soda, and then I just threw in processed foods, crackers, chips. I mean, you could but the main categories are meat, grains, dairy, and soda. So what's the opposite of that? Fruits and vegetables. So I promote eating Genesis 1:29, which is all seed-bearing plants. Those shall be your food. So that would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, etc. The most alkalizing foods are greens. Greens, 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 greens. So how many animals in nature have weak bones and osteoporosis and osteopenia? None, probably. Now, it's not that we're testing them to find out, but you know what they test is they test animals in the zoo and different places where they keep animals, and the animals don't have bone problems. And they don't have to drink dairy their whole lives to have strong bones. They eat grass and they eat plants. And that's what keeps their bones strong. I mean, I'm blown away. Like, this is an argument that vegans and vegetarians, and I don't promote anything like that. I don't like labels, but I promote a biblical diet. But this is an argument they've been making for forever. And how do you refute this type of argument that the animals on the planet with the strongest, biggest, healthiest, most amazing bone structure eat grass? They eat plants. So obviously there's nutrients in greens and green foods that can keep us strong and to give us strong, healthy bones. And I have friends who are vegetarians and vegans, and I know people who are bodybuilders and athletes, you know, who eat vegetarian basically. And again, it's easy to be a unhealthy vegetarian. I don't want to get into that, because you can still be addicted to grains and sugar and all kinds of horrible things. But if you do lots of green foods, that's the key to alkalizing your body, reversing this acidic condition in your body. And not only is that going to give you good bone health, but that's human health. That's the way we're supposed to be eating from the beginning. Genesis 1:29, where God told us how to eat in the Bible, is an extreme, radical diet change for most people. But it shouldn't be. It should be how we're supposed to eat. If you lived any other time in human history, that's what you ate because you had to live off of God's provision. Never before did we eat at grocery stores and restaurants and et cetera, right? So water is important. I think I have that as its own thing. I do. Greens and grasses, so wheatgrass, barley grass, alfalfa, all your algae, spirulina, chlorella. You want a good bone food, spirulina. It's loaded in amino acids and protein. It's high in calcium. Algae protect themselves in nature by building a calcium shell over them to protect them from invaders, from organisms and things that shouldn't be on there. And so they're actually very high in calcium, your algae, spirulina and chlorella. But all your grasses are too. Again, that's where all the animals get their strong bones from. So let's go into water. Water alkalizes the body. If you have alkaline, negatively ionized water, most water out there is acidic. So if you buy bottled water, it's acidic. Distilled water, acidic. Reverse osmosis water, acidic. If you can find fresh mountain spring water or glacial water, a lot of that is alkaline. Today, I am a big fan of the water machines. I am. Again, there's a lot of controversy on those on both sides. I've looked at it all. I've been on both sides of the fence. But I've seen too many people made well through drinking the right water. And it makes sense. We're 75% water. So getting alkaline, negatively ionized water, I like the Living Water Machine by Volara. That's the one we promote. There's other ones out there, but this one is equally as good, if not better, than the other machines out there for half the price. So I think that's a good thing to do if you can afford it. Hydration is crucial for bone health. Again, we're 75% water, so the bones are made of water as well. And so that's important. Coffee and soda, obviously, but I just picked on coffee a little bit. That causes mineral loss. That weakens the adrenals, which the adrenals are responsible for metabolism of your minerals, calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium balance. That's handled by the adrenals. So the coffee weakens the adrenals. It is a diuretic, so it's going to cause water loss. Now, I'm not anti-coffee. I am anti, the double espresso lattes full of sugar and those kind of things. So if you have a good quality organic coffee bean and you make it at home yourself and you drink 1 or 2 cups a day and you're in generally good health, there's nothing wrong with coffee. And in fact, there's a lot of health benefits to coffee. But if you're trying to reverse a health situation, you're trying to have stronger bones, might be a good idea to get away from coffee for a while. Step 5, avoiding bone drugs. So here's a good one to get to. Because like I talk about in all my classes, and I'll just make this clear as I go through every class with every health condition, every man-made pharmaceutical drug works against God's design of the human body. So what works with the design of the human body? Water, greens, foods, natural things that will strengthen your bones. Bone drugs, the way they quote-unquote work, I'm going to explain how bones are renewed real quick. There's a couple little things in our body that have been termed osteoblasts and osteoclasts. And osteoblasts tear down and remove old, sick, dead tissue from the bones, and it's kind of the cleanup of the bone that needs to be healed or regenerated or gotten rid of because it's old. And then there's osteoclasts that rebuild new bone. So there's these little, I don't know if they're organisms or what they're called, but there's these osteoblasts and osteoclasts that are continually breaking down and rebuilding new bone because it's living tissue. It's a living organism. The bone drugs actually stop the function of osteoblasts and osteoclasts. So when you stop the osteoblasts and osteoclasts from working and you basically kill them off, the bones get hard and brittle. And so that's why they say the bone drugs work, because now you have this hardened, stiffened bone, and so they're saying, well, we just strengthened your bones. Okay, questions? Yes.
So I've read in some places that you don't want vegetable glycerin in your toothpaste because it can prevent teeth from remineralizing, because it can coat them. And since teeth are bones, I thought I would ask if you heard that, read that, if you agree with that. What are your thoughts?
I've heard that. I don't know enough about it to probably speak on it intelligently. But I do know companies like Cedar Bear who use vegetable glycerin in all their tinctures, and they've looked into that and don't believe that to be true at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know who wrote that or why, or if they have proof that that is true or not. I don't know if I can comment on that. But yes.
I have 2 questions. On the diatomaceous earth, how much would you suggest daily?
On diatomaceous earth, you don't need much, maybe like half a teaspoon. That'd be equivalent to like a couple capsules.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then as far as the water, what are your thoughts on the Berkey water?
I like Berkey filters. I have a Berkey filter.
Okay.
I just think people need to add minerals back into their water.
So that takes it out?
Takes it out.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
So how would you add?
Like electrolyte minerals. Yeah, you can add sea salt into the water. You could add electrolyte minerals into the water.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Himalayan pink salt, a little pinch of that, or I have some, just electrolyte mineral drops. There's one called Endure. There's one called Spark. You can just drop those in.
Okay.
Yes?
Did you get the diatomaceous earth?
Diatomaceous, we have it here. You can also buy it at feed stores. It's used a lot in farming for different things. I don't know if it's food grade, though, if you buy it at a feed store. But the stuff we have is food grade. It's pretty cheap. Any other questions? Okay, so next week's arthritis is the last one until February. Yes?